Hello and welcome to Enozonfi Infozone. It's me, Brian Kay, and I've been thinking a lot lately about books, specifically about the words inside them and how so often they seem to perform this magic trick where they enter my brain, make themselves comfortable for a brief shining moment, and then poof, vanish, like a poorly executed disappearing act where the rabbit just sort of hops off stage when you're not looking. It's a common human frustration, I think, to invest hours, sometimes days, into a book, only to find its core arguments or most beautiful passages have become hazy, like a dream upon waking. We read to learn, to grow, to be transported, but what's the lasting value if the details elude us so quickly? Today, we're diving into a topic that feels both incredibly ambitious and deeply personal to me. How to remember everything you read. Okay, maybe not everything. I mean, our brains are complex, wondrous, and occasionally sieve-like organs, and perfection is a pretty tall order. But we can certainly get better, much better, at retaining the knowledge, the stories, and the insights that we gather from the written word. It's about transforming reading from a passive consumption into an active, enduring engagement. It's about making those words stick, not just for the exam or the book club meeting, but for the long, fascinating journey of being a curious human. So, if you've ever finished a chapter and immediately wondered what you just read, or if you long to build a more robust internal library of ideas, then you are in the right place. We're going to explore some practical, thoughtful strategies together. And hey, while you're settling in for this exploration of memory and text, if you feel so inclined, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, turn on that little bell for notifications so you don't miss our future intellectual adventures, and maybe even share this video with a fellow reader who might appreciate it. It helps the channel more than you know, and it helps us build this community of learners. So let's start with the why. Why does it even matter if we remember what we read? I mean, beyond the obvious utility of, say, passing an exam or sounding smart at a dinner party, which, let's be honest, are not insignificant motivators for some of us some of the time, but I think it goes deeper than that. When I read something profound or beautiful or challenging, it feels like I'm forging a connection, not just with the author, but with the ideas themselves. And when those ideas fade, it feels like a small betrayal of that connection, like a friendship that's drifted apart because you stopped paying attention to the details. It's like the story isn't truly complete in you until it's woven into the fabric of your own understanding. The act of reading is an investment of our most precious, non-renewable resource, time. And like any investment, we hope for a return. That return isn't just the momentary pleasure of a good sentence or a thrilling plot twist. It's the accumulation of knowledge, the broadening of perspective, the subtle shifts in how we perceive the world. If memory is faulty, if the lessons learned are quickly forgotten, then that return on investment diminishes significantly. It's like filling a leaky bucket. You might enjoy the sensation of the water pouring in, but you're not left with much to quench your thirst later. The true power of reading, I believe, lies in its capacity to change us, and that change is predicated on our ability to recall and integrate what we've encountered. And there's also this: our memories, in many ways, construct our reality. What we remember from the books we read shapes our internal landscape, providing us with metaphors, frameworks, and emotional vocabularies that we use to navigate our lives. Forgetting isn't just about losing facts, it's about losing potential tools for understanding ourselves and the world around us. Think about the last book that truly moved you. Don't you want to carry its essence with you, to have its wisdom readily available when you face a new challenge or a moment of reflection? That's why improving our reading retention isn't just a study skill, it's a life skill, a way of enriching our inner world one remembered page at a time. Alright, so if we agree that remembering what we read is important, and I'm going to assume we do, otherwise you probably would have clicked away to a video about cats by now, which, fair enough, then how do we actually do it? The first, and perhaps most foundational technique, is something called active reading. And I know active reading sounds a bit like conscious breathing. Isn't all reading active? Well, yes and no. You can passively let your eyes scan words, absorb them superficially, and then have them evaporate like morning mist. Or you can engage with the text as if it's a conversation, a puzzle, or an expedition into uncharted territory. Active reading, in essence, is about wrestling with the material. It's about asking questions as you go, what is the author really trying to say here? Do I agree with this assertion? How does this connect to what I already know, or what I read in the previous chapter, or even in that weird article about llamas I read last week? It's about highlighting not just what seems important, but what sparks a question or a connection in your mind. It's about making predictions. Okay, based on this, I bet the next section is going to argue X, and then seeing if you're right, or more interestingly, why you were wrong. This isn't about being a critic in the negative sense, but a critical, engaged thinker. Think of it like this. Passive reading is like being a tourist on a bus, watching the scenery go by. Active reading is like being the explorer, hacking through the jungle, mapping the terrain, taking soil samples. One is pleasant, certainly, but the other leads to a much deeper, more indelible understanding of the landscape. It means sometimes slowing down, rereading a dense paragraph, looking up unfamiliar words or concepts. It's an investment of effort, no doubt, but it's an investment that pays dividends in retention, because you're not just receiving information, you're co-creating meaning with the text. You're building mental hooks for those ideas to snag onto. Chapter 3. Our brains are, in many ways, incredibly visual machines. We evolved to navigate a three-dimensional world, to recognize faces, to spot predators in the rustling grass. And so it stands to reason that if we can translate the abstract symbols of text into vivid mental images, we're tapping into a powerful, primal mode of processing and remembering. This brings us to our second technique, visualization. It's about consciously creating a movie in your head as you read, especially when the material lends itself to it. Think fiction, history, or even descriptive scientific explanations. When you're reading a novel, don't just process the words. The old man walked down a dusty road. Try to it. What does the man look like? Is he stooped? What color is the dust? Is the sun high and hot, or is it setting, casting long shadows? What sounds might accompany this scene? The crunch of gravel, the distant call of a bird. The more sensory details you can conjure, the more real the scene becomes in your mind, and the more likely you are to remember the context, the characters, and the plot points associated with it. It's like you're building a little diorama in your brain for each key moment. This isn't just for narrative either. If you're reading about a historical event, try to visualize the key players, the setting, the sequence of actions. If you're tackling a complex scientific concept, can you imagine it as a metaphor or a dynamic system with moving parts? Even abstract ideas can sometimes be given a visual anchor. For instance, if you're reading about different economic theories, you might imagine them as different characters with distinct personalities and ways of interacting. It sounds a bit playful perhaps, but the human brain loves novelty and strong associations. By actively painting these mental pictures, you're giving your memory more to grab onto than just dry, abstract text. Chapter 4. Now, let's talk about a technique that comes straight from the science of learning, and it's one that, frankly, I wish I'd understood and applied much earlier in my own educational journey: spaced repetition. It sounds a bit clinical, I know, not nearly as romantic as losing yourself in a book, but its effectiveness in combating the dreaded forgetting curve, that depressing graph that shows how quickly we forget information if we don't actively try to retain it, is pretty undeniable. The basic idea is surprisingly simple. Instead of cramming information all at once, you review it at increasing intervals over time. Think about it. When you first learn something new, it's fragile in your memory. If you encounter it again relatively soon, it strengthens that neural pathway. Then you can wait a bit longer before the next review, and then even longer. Each successful retrieval makes the memory more robust and less likely to fade. So for reading, this doesn't mean rereading the entire book every few days. That would be, to put it mildly, impractical for most of us who have, lives. Instead, it's about strategically revisiting the key ideas, the notes you took, or the summaries you made. There are apps and flashcard systems, like Anki for example, that are built around sophisticated spaced repetition algorithms, which can be incredibly powerful for memorizing specific facts or vocabulary, but you can also apply the principle more broadly. After finishing a chapter, maybe jot down the 3 main takeaways and plan to glance at them again the next day, then in 3 days, then in a week, and so on. It's about interrupting the process of forgetting at just the right moment. It's less about the sheer volume of re-exposure and more about that re-exposure. It's a bit like tending a garden. You don't just water it once, you water it periodically, allowing the roots to grow deeper and stronger over time. Chapter 5. Our final major strategy today, and one that I find myself returning to more and more, is the deceptively simple act of note-taking and summarization. And I want to emphasize that this isn't about mindlessly transcribing passages from the book, creating a sort of shadow text that you'll also never look at again. No, effective note-taking and summarization are active processes of thinking, of digesting information and rephrasing it in your own words, which is a surprisingly potent way to make it stick. It's about transforming the author's ideas into ideas. When you pause to write down a key concept or to summarize a chapter in a few sentences, you're forced to engage with the material on a deeper level. You have to identify what's truly important, to discern the core argument from the supporting details, and then to articulate that understanding. This act of processing and re-articulating is where a lot of the learning and memory consolidation happens. It's like explaining a concept to someone else. In doing so, you clarify it for yourself. Your notes become a personalized record of your engagement with the text, a map of your intellectual journey through its pages. And there are so many ways to do this. You could use marginalia, scribbling questions and connections directly in the book, if you're not a book preservation purist, that is. You could keep a dedicated reading journal, where you reflect on each chapter or section. You could try creating mind maps to visually connect ideas. The key is to find a method that works for you and to be consistent. The goal isn't to create a perfect, exhaustive outline, but to create touchstones that will help you recall the broader landscape of the book later on. Summarizing especially forces you to distill, to find the essence, and that act of distillation is a powerful mnemonic in itself. Outro. So there you have it, a few thoughts and strategies on how to unlock your memory and hopefully remember more of what you read. It's not about achieving perfect recall, because our brains are beautifully imperfect, dynamic things. It's about engaging more deeply, more actively, and more thoughtfully with the texts that shape our understanding of the world and ourselves. From active reading and visualization to spaced repetition and the crucial art of note-taking, these are tools to help us not just consume words, but to integrate them into who we are. Thanks for watching. I genuinely hope that some of these ideas resonate with you and prove helpful in your own reading adventures. The world of books is vast and endlessly rewarding, and the more we can carry with us from our journeys through it, the richer our inner lives become. If you found this video helpful, if it sparked an idea or offered a new perspective, please do consider subscribing to Enozonfi Infozone, giving this video a like, ringing that notification bell so you don't miss out on future explorations, and sharing it with your friends, family, or that one cousin who always forgets the plot of the movie you just watched together. It's a continuous journey, this quest to learn and remember, and I'm glad we could spend a part of it together today. We're all just trying to make sense of things, and books are one of our best companions in that endeavor. Keep reading, keep questioning, and keep building that incredible library within your own mind. See you in the next video on Enozonfi Infozone.